Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in and checking out my latest video. Now, today's video is going to be talking about one of the very best prospects, up-and-coming fighters in Canada, which will be Custio Clayton. And Custio Clayton, for those of you who are not familiar with him, he's a fighter who is fighting at 147 pounds. He is currently 10-0 as a professional with 8 knockouts. And in this video, I'm going to kind of get into why I really like him as a fighter, some of his background, things of that nature. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. So when you look at Custio Clayton, this is a gentleman from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Um, he's a fighter who was trained by his great uncle earlier in his career, who was actually the father of Canadian heavyweight Kirk Johnson, very popular fighter back in the day in Canada. So they're out of Nova Scotia, Canada, and from a young age, Custio Clayton was boxing. So he's a guy who has developed his skills over the years. Ultimately, the highlight of his amateur career was when he represented Canada in the 2012 Olympics. Very, very close to medaling in those Olympics. Unfortunately, he was robbed against a UK fighter over in the UK in the Olympics. I mean, we all know the history of boxing judges in the Olympics. So unfortunately, he did not medal, but it did not derail his career, which is a great news. And he had a very solid amateur career, capped off by over 100 wins as an amateur. So this is a guy who's very experienced in fighting against top level opponents from around the world. So that's invaluable experience. And we see a lot of guys currently in this professional sport of boxing with deep amateur backgrounds that are very successful because of that ability to adapt to different styles. Now, when I look at Custio Clayton skill wise, this is a guy who has a vicious right hand. I would say that's his best power punch. Also, when I look at Custio Clayton, he does very good body work. He also has very good hand speed, good foot speed as well. And this is a guy with excellent ring IQ. So when I watch him as a fighter, one thing I really like about his skills, well, he does a number of things very good. Something I really admire is when he backs down his opponents and he's the aggressor in a fight, he isn't reckless being aggressive. He's so smart setting up his shot. So basically, what you'll see him do at times is he'll step in and then step back, and his opponent will show the defensive maneuver that they're going to do, and then he sets them up for the shot he wants to put on them. So he's very smart, and he's thinking, making his opponents think with feints and the way he pivots his feet, things like that, moves around. His opponents are always on edge, and they're showing what they're going to do. So then he sets them up for whatever shot he wants to hit them with. And just a very smart fighter in terms of that style that he uses. And that goes to show you the ring IQ and composure that Custio Clayton has as a fighter, and what makes him one of the highly regarded fighters in Canada. Also, when you look at his career, he's a Group Von Michel. Hasn't been as active as I like to see lately, to be honest with you, even though he is with a big name promoter in Canada. However, he has fought some very good veteran opponents who have got him some rounds. And that's really key, in my opinion, for development of an up-and-coming fighter, to be in there with some credible fighters, um, get some rounds in, learn some things, adapt, and continue growing as a fighter. And Custio Clayton, with the mindset he has, he's a very humble guy, class act, and trains very hard, takes the sport of boxing very seriously. So this is a guy you definitely want to watch out for as a fighter, Custio Clayton. He's actually fighting next week in Cornwall, Ontario, Canada. So if you are in the Canadian region in Ontario, Montreal, Quebec, or different areas throughout different provinces throughout Canada, but close to that area where you can drive to the fight or take a flight or whatever, definitely a card you guys want to check out. And Custio Clayton, definitely one to watch in the future. And if you guys are familiar with Custio Clayton as a fighter, let me know what you guys think on him as a fighter and what he's going to be, ultimately expectations you have for him at 147 pounds, which is an extremely tough division in the sport of boxing. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning into the video. Really appreciate it. Thanks once again.